Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Mike Francesa podcast on the Bet Rivers Network, brought to you by Casamigos Tequila. Casamigos Tequila is brought to you by those who drink it. We come to you on the Mike Francesa channel on the Bet Rivers Network on YouTube after the Yankees put away Kansas City, as expected, and now have joined the Mets in baseball's version of the Final Four. They will both be in the League Championship Series, and they will wait to see who their opponent will be. The Mets will open in California against either the Dodgers or San Diego on Sunday. They will play opposite the football Giants. The Yankees will open at home against either Cleveland or Detroit. Cleveland won tonight to knot the series at 2. They will go up against that incredibly talented young Detroit hurler in Game 5 on Saturday. So they will play. The Yankees will be heavy favorites against either Detroit or Cleveland. And they will begin on Tuesday and Wednesday. On Monday and Tuesday at Yankee Stadium. So Sunday, Monday for the Mets. The Monday game is a 4:00 Eastern time start, 1:00 West Coast, 4:00 New York time, and the Yankees will play Monday and Tuesday at 7:30 both nights. The Mets will be home Game 3. The only time that's stamped so far is Game 3 will be Wednesday night at Citi Field at 8:00. That's all we know so far about times on the games. We do know this: if you're looking ahead as a Met fan or a Yankee fan, the World Series will begin on Friday, October 25. Friday, October 25 is the first game of the World Series. Now, as we said, Sunday, Monday for the Mets. Monday, Tuesday for the Yankees. So that's what you're looking at right now. And again, the Yankees needed to win this series. If they had lost this series, they would have had a clean house. The American League has opened up for the Yankees. Baltimore gone. Houston gone. Detroit has a little magic and a wonderful pitcher. Kansas City came into these playoffs, and listen, they were stubborn. They won a game. They could have won the first game, which was badly played, but they are a very weak offensive team. They looked the part of a very weak offensive team. And although the Yankees struggled at times offensively, they really had to win this series. And let's be honest, this Yankee team needs to go to the World Series. If they do that, they can considering they haven't been there in 15 years, they can call the season a success if they can make the World Series. Now, the one problem with that is if the Mets are standing there, then it's a whole different deal. If it's the Dodgers or San Diego and the Yankees should get beat in the World Series, they could live with that. They're not going to be happy, but they could live with that. If it's the Mets, they're going to have a hard time with that. We know that. But they'll take that one step at a time. But what we're left with now is either Cleveland at Detroit at the Yankees, Mets at either San Diego or the Dodgers. Those 4 teams will settle those things in the next 48 hours. The Yankees got a good performance from Cole tonight. Cole got a couple of breaks because there were a couple of balls, including the one hit by Isbell, which on a normal day is out of the ballpark. Forget being out of Yankee Stadium. Everything's out of Yankee Stadium. That ball was out of any park. The wind was really blowing in by the 7th inning, and that ball off the bat, everybody in the ballpark, including Cole, thought the ball was gone and the game was tied up. Soto was against the fence and caught the ball. Hey, tonight, when he did get hit hard, and he didn't get hit hard often, when he did give up a hard hit ball, somebody was standing in front of it. So that was a positive tonight. And other than Pham, who owns him, Pham didn't take him out of the ballpark, though. He got 3 singles. So it was a night where, the Yankees got a good offensive performance from Torres. They got a more good performance, more solid play from Stanton, who has had a terrific postseason so far. As I mentioned to you, And this is something that the Yankees are gonna have to think about down the road, especially against left-handed pitching, and I'd even consider it now against right-handed pitching. And if you wanna go to a different lefty, we could discuss that down the road. But here's the thing, Wells is doing nothing. I cannot bat him behind Judge the entire against both kinds of pitching the rest of the way. I think the Yankees have to make an adjustment there. I know they like Wells, and he had a great run at batting cleanup, but if you look, his numbers have been really bad for the last 60, 70 at bats. So I would be very conscious of that going forward. And Stanton's red hot. So against lefties, I would definitely bat Stanton behind Judge, and make them pitch to Judge. Judge looked more like himself tonight. Getting a couple of walks, lacing a double up the gap. He and Witt did not have big series, but that happens in a 4-game sampling. I understand that Judge is not going to make anybody happy until he rips the cover off the ball and has a 2-home run, 5 RBI night, which will put everyone, finally get everything back to normal as far as people's regard for him. But until he does that, they're going to keep bringing this up about him struggling in the postseason. And Stanton continues to do a nice job. He really does. As when he's beating you with base hits, he is really red hot because he's always a threat to take any mistake out of the ballpark. But when he's taking the ball down the right field line, then hitting a base hit up the middle and doing stuff like that, he's red hot. And that's when you don't want to pitch to him. That's all there is to it. He had a walk tonight, an intentional pass, and went 2 for 3. Torres hit the ball well, had a couple of hits, had an RBI, had a run scored. Another guy who, always seems to do well in the postseason. That's one thing about Torres. He always hits in the postseason. You got to take that into account whenever you get mad at him. And we always find a lot of reasons to get mad at him, especially on the base paths and early in the season. But he does come through in the postseason. And the Yankees have gotten a good performance out of the bullpen in the series. Holmes has handled his demotion well, and Weaver has so far found a very comfortable home in the closer role. That will be tested in the next series and will be extremely tested because any one of the 3 National League series have good offensive teams. Cleveland and Detroit are not good offensive teams. They are weaker offensive teams. Cleveland's got to beat you with their bullpen. Detroit's got to get a great performance from their great starting pitcher and then piece things together. Neither one of them is going to kill you with their lineup. They're not good offensive teams. The 3 National League teams, the Dodgers, San Diego, and the Mets, are all imposing lineups. And that's when, if the Yankees play them in the World Series, that's when the bullpen will really get tested seriously. But right now, one step at a time. We all knew that things had opened up well for the Yankees with Houston going away and Baltimore going away. And the Yankees just could not even fathom losing to Kansas City. I don't think anybody thought they would. They comfortably won the series. They have to get through this next series. It will be a bitter, bitter disappointment if they don't get to the World Series, considering they're going to be heavy favorites against either Cleveland or Detroit. And considering the 2 teams they're looking at, they will be expected to win. And it will be very, very tough for them in the offseason, especially if the Mets get there. Especially if you see the Mets have already had a golden season. No matter what happens to them in the next series, if they lose, if they play badly in the next series, they've still had a wonderful year. You can't take anything away from them already. But the way they're playing right now, they can beat anybody. We all know that. We'll have more on that as we get closer to the game 1. But we know how well they're playing right now. But these teams, like if Detroit beats Cleveland in Game 5, has a team ever in the postseason come into a series playing with house money more than Detroit would against the Yankees? If I'm them, I wouldn't feel a bit of pressure. They had one of the great runs in recent baseball history to even make the postseason. And then if they have made it all the way to the League Championship Series and withstood 2 series of play to play the mighty Yankees, I mean, how much more would you want that series if you're the Detroit players in the hierarchy, because there isn't an inkling of pressure on you. You're not expected to beat the mighty Yankees in any way in that series. So it will be to their advantage, no question. They will play fast and loose. But again, their lineup, even though the Yankees have holes in their lineup and obviously are very top heavy with Soto and Judge and Stanton when he's playing like this, uh, the other lineups pale in comparison. It's not even close. So, I mean, those teams have to really scrape it together and try and get very good pitching, play defense, and get some timely hitting if they are going to stay in the series against the Yankees. We don't know if Rizzo can play yet. Birdie had a really eye-opening series. No one expected him to. Let me just say it from my standpoint. I never expected him to play first base. He had never played first base professionally. We know he's a utility infielder, so I didn't have any problem with him playing anywhere because those utility guys who are good can play anywhere. They have good hands. He didn't play a good first base. He played a tremendous first base, and he had really good at bats. He got on base. He got on base tonight again 2 times. He hit the ball with authority the entire series. He had a wonderful series to the point where, he reminded me a little bit of, shades of a Doyle, getting in a series and doing something, going back years because or playing the Louis Saul role, but playing it even to the hilt by playing more than that, being in the starting lineup a couple of times. Uh, Very impressive. And I don't know what Rizzo is going to do, but I mean, you had to be really impressed with what Birdie did. He played a very good series, and the Yankees made the right move with Verdugo. They stuck with him. He didn't hit a ton. He's never going to hit a ton. But his defense is a big key, and as long as he gets some timely hits, having that outfield defense, especially in a big left field like Yankee Stadium, it's a big factor because a mistake with a couple of men on base can cost you the ball game out there. So they'll continue to go along that way. The one thing I'd look at, the only thing I would look at, is Rizzo coming back. If he is, he plays. If he's not, I'm sure they'll go forward with the same way they went in this series. Number 2, I would really re-examine Wells in the cleanup spot. He went in there and did a great job, but he has to be nice. And maybe he's tired. He's caught a lot, okay? But he has really struggled of late in a big way. And with Stanton red hot, slide Stanton up against lefties without any question. And even against righties, I wouldn't put Stanton in the 4 against righties, but I have to admit, if Rizzo was there, I could put him in that spot. I don't like putting Chisholm in that spot. I'm sorry, I don't. So on against lefties, against righties, I can live more with Wells there than probably any of the other lefties. I have to admit that, but I don't love it. Against lefties, I have to move Stanton up without any question. I know you don't want to pile the lefties, the righties together too much, and you'd like to break it up a little bit, but he is not offering any protection. And the way he's swinging the bat now, why would you ever pitch to Judge once he becomes Judge again? Kansas City, give them credit. They had a game plan against Judge. They were aggressive against him. A lot of teams, as you see during the regular season, are just so scared of Judge. They either walk him indiscriminately or they make bad pitches to him. This team attacked him and did a very, very good job. They really did. And I thought the best thing that Cole did tonight was he didn't walk anybody. That was really the key. When you can go through a playoff game and offer 0 walks, you stop the traffic a lot on the base paths. It makes a big difference. When you give up 6 hits and you walk 2 or 3, which would be normal, it's a lot different than walking none. And tonight he only struck out 4 batters because Kansas City doesn't strike out a lot. They hit a lot of lazy flies. That's which are no better than the strikeouts, but they hit a lot of lazy flies. And but he only struck out 4, but he did not walk a batter. He did get a couple of breaks from the wind in right field. Two times. Melendez's ball might have gone out, and it might have gone out. Ishbel's ball absolutely would have gone out. On another day, it would have been at any park in baseball. He creamed that pitch. Should have been a tie game. It wasn't. And Pham went 3 for 3, but didn't hurt him. Didn't knock in a run, didn't score a run. So he didn't get up with guys on base, and he didn't get a chance to score any runs. So Pham went 3 for 3, and it's 3 hits without a run scored, without an RBI. That's tough. So he spaced things out well and pitched a very, very professional game. Holmes gave you a good 8th, and then Weaver, again, getting another save, did a good job. Both pitched clean innings, and the Yankee bullpen, I think, was 15 scoreless innings. But remember, Kansas City struggled incredibly in September offensively. They were, I believe, the worst offensive team in baseball from Labor Day forward. And that's why they had so much trouble down the stretch of the season. At one point, I think they lost 7 in a row down the stretch. They really struggled. They made the playoffs. Good for them. But the bottom line is, they just don't have a whole lot of offense, especially if Witt is not going to do what you need him to do. And in this series, he didn't. And they don't get it from Perez, who had the 1 home run in the series. If you don't get it from him, then you just don't have enough offense from this team. And that was without question. So the Yankees move on as expected. I understand no one's going to be very excited or, is going to be jumping up and down about it. It's not the story that the Mets are, but it sure beats the alternative. They're in the ALCS where they expected to be, where we all expected them to get to all year. Now this is where they have to get past. And what makes this even a little more ticklish is the presence of the Mets. Because if the Mets get to the World Series and the Yankees don't, then it really destroys the Yankee season. And then if you get to the World Series and the Mets are there, then you have to win it because it's the Mets. So the Mets do add pressure to the Yankee season. There is no question about that. There's no way around that. In our city, there is no way around that. Met performance adds pressure to the Bombers. There's just no way around it. They're the big guys. They are the big brothers. It has to be that way. And it's just something Yankees have to live with. It's part of being the Yankees. So there's added pressure there as the Mets get ready to play what will be a very tough opponent. But that opponent better be ready because the Mets are going to be a very hard out for either San Diego or the Dodgers. That a very, very hard out. And the Yankees are going to be a heavy favorite over either of the other teams. And I would be surprised and disappointed, but I would be very surprised if the Yankees don't make it to the World Series. I think this is the year where they could never be set up better to go to the World Series than this year. Really, everything has completely fallen their way. There's not a reason in the world for them not to go to the World Series. It will be a bitter disappointment if they don't. Now, tomorrow we will do our Football Friday podcast, 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, like always, for week 6. We will have a very busy Sunday. We will have a very busy Monday. We will take Saturday off. We haven't had a day off in like 10 days, but that's fine. We've had a lot of fun stuff going on. We will take a day off Saturday. We will be back on Sunday with a couple of things. Obviously, the Mets playing, the Giants playing. Remember, the Jets are playing Monday night, Giants playing Sunday night. So both football teams are in prime time, and the Yankees and Mets will go head to head. The Mets will go head to head with the Giants on Sunday night. That first game time is 8:15 on Sunday night. in either LA or San Diego. And then the Yankees will go head to head with the Jets on Monday night, as the Jets will invite the Bills in. Now, so football is going to, without question, dominate in the ratings. Don't get into that, because baseball ratings can't compare with football ratings. So don't even go there, okay? That ship sailed so long ago, it's not even worth discussing. Now, a couple of things. Just let me slide over to the Jets for a second. With the news today about Hackett, you know, the podcast I did after the loss to the Vikings on Sunday morning. And I was irate about the losses to Denver and Minnesota, games they should have won. And I said it was time to get rid of Hackett and Salah, even though in season I know there's not a good solution. And I would not have done things exactly the way they did. Now, they did what I wanted them to do, but they didn't do it exactly the way I wanted them to do it. They got rid of Salah, fine. They got rid of Hackett from a standpoint of him having responsibility. He's no longer calling the plays or in charge of the offense. Now, Hackett's still here, which doesn't make any sense. I understand how close he is to Aaron Rodgers, but how is that going to be conducive to that room working if Hackett's in the room? What is his job going to be? What exactly are you going to give him to do when you've now taken away his power? I think he should have been sent on his way, just because I think it makes it easier on him, easier on the franchise. I personally would not have elevated the interim. You elevate someone off the staff when you are trying to build for next year and get a head start. Not that I'm saying that the defensive coordinator in this case, Olber, cannot do the job. He might be a guy who can step over and move from coordinator to head coach, but do that in season, he is going to have to give something up. He is going to have to give a good part of his defense to somebody else. He no longer can do the same thing he used to do and be the head coach. You don't have enough hours in the day not to be a head coach properly. And I'm assuming he's going to do that. Now, that with Salah out of there, and now Brick, as they call him, no longer just the defensive coordinator, you have exposed the defense, which has been their strength, to being hurt by not having those two minds and those two leaders running that defense. That's why I would have left him there. I would have added somebody to the offensive room who's a bona fide offensive veteran coach, and I would have gotten a head coach just for the rest of the season. Whether it was a veteran like Pete Carroll, whether it was a Vrabel, whoever it may have been. Now, forget Belichick's name. He detests the Jets with every ounce of his body. He would never coach the Jets. He might be in Dallas, he might be in Philly, he might be in Jacksonville, he might be somewhere else, but he will never be with the Jets. So forget that. Okay, I've seen headlines about that. It's not going to happen ever, ever, ever. Now, what they've done is, I'm afraid they've weakened the defensive room, which scares me. So let's see who's going to elevate there and take control. And the offensive room, who's strong enough in there to make the changes that need to be made? Because changes need to be made in how you scheme the offense, how you get the receivers open, how you give Rodgers time to throw the ball, and how you block the run. All this has to be worked on in a very short time. Do they have enough veteran coaching in that room to do that? I don't know what what he's going to accomplish. We're going to see. He might be overwhelmed by this. He might surprised by this. But I would have added a veteran set of eyes, set of ears, and a veteran brain to the room, not a guy who's looking to become a head coach, a guy who could have aided the offense, could have fixed the offensive line, could have schemed. Hey, you look at other teams, quarterbacks have easy throws. Rodgers never has an easy throw, and he has 2.5 to get rid of the ball or he's on his back. He can't even run play action. He can't even run a real play fake because by the time he does it, he gets hit. All he can do is run quick offense, and the receivers don't know where they're going. And that's crazy with not only a veteran quarterback, but an immortal quarterback. Now, Rodgers took the heat for all this, and I think that was wise of him. And I think he did the right thing by saying, if I played to my potential, we'd be 4-1 and this wouldn't happen. He's right. But if he had hit Wilson or Lazard or Williams for the touchdown pass and beaten the Vikings, if the kicker had made the field goal and beaten the Broncos, I would have been screaming the same way because of how bad the offense looked. It was a matter of time. Either he's going to get killed, and he's almost been beat up to where he can't play as it is now. And they have to be able to utilize Wilson and Holmes and Williams. I don't like Lazard. He drops too many balls, and he acts like a jerk. So he wouldn't be on my team. I would get Reddick here. I don't care what it costs this year. I would get Devontae Adams here if I could do it in any reasonable fashion. They need that. But in my mind, they're now short a person in the defensive room. They're short a person in the offensive room, and that scares me. I'm going to hope that things get a lot better. But while they did the two things I wanted, they didn't do them the way I wanted, and I'm still fearful that they've left themselves very, very weak in terms of how they're spread out. They're too spread out. They're asking too much of an interim head coach. They're asking too much of somebody who has to be elevated in the defensive room. They're asking too much in the offensive room of people who haven't had that kind of responsibility. It's a lot to ask. Hopefully, we'll be pleasantly surprised, but I'm still very concerned. We'll see you tomorrow.